Montana.
Here.
Vicki Favor.
Here.
Mary Hess.
Here.
Tom Tia. Victoria Newcourt.
Here.
Tracy Williams.
Here. And tonight I've asked Miss Sadie Marks, who's going to be a 5th grader at Founders next year, big shot 5th grader, that's one of the, when you roll to school, to come help me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Right here, Sadie, right there. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sadie, that was awesome. Thank you very much. All right. I'm going to know. You're going to have a 6th grade. Okay. So, oftentimes we do recognitions, and it kind of goes in one ear and out the other for those sitting if it's not relevant to you or your child. But we talked about this a couple months ago, and it took us a while to find an evening where these guys could be here. But as a district, we really want to recognize this group for the work they do. So, the Board of Education will recognize Chief of Police Gene Lowry, as well as District Police Liaison Officers Jose Jacquez and Aaron Lockhart for the assistance they provide to our district during the recent evacuation of Cortland Elementary School and for the great support they provide to our district throughout the year. Gentlemen, please. And you know a police officer when they're Jose's age and they can still wear short shorts. Gene, thank you for everything. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Gene, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I don't
I know
want
it's
to stand,
impromptu, but
want to stand in front of anyone, but on behalf of the police department, all of our staff, but especially on this occasion in regard to the district, Jose and Aaron do such a good job for us, and by what I hear back from you all, they do a great job for you as well. But I think what this exemplifies for our community is that we've had this partnership. It's not about the police department or the school district, it's a partnership. And it's not just those communities, it's the students and the rest of the community coming together, not for public safety alone or any particular thing in the school itself. It's about making our entire school district and our community a better place. So we thank you, and I hope the community realizes how much this means to the police department, the support we have from the school district, and I pledge to you that we'll continue this relationship for a long time. So thank you very much for that.
thank you. I was just kidding about the short shorts are not that short. And by the way, what really makes those two guys profoundly effective is their ability to deal with kids all the way from whatever level up through adults. That is a very difficult task, and both of them do that profoundly well. So again, thank you very much. Okay, next, the Board of Education will recognize the Clinton Rosette Middle School track and field team for the following accomplishments. 8 Clinton Rosette Middle School athletes competed in the IESA track and field state meet on May 23rd and May 24th in East Peoria. The 8th grade 4x100 meter relay finished 5th in state. And those guys are flying, man. They do fly. And 7th grader Christina Rizoff finished 9th in the 1600 meter run. Members of the 4x100 meter relay team are Kamaris Kirkwood, Caitlin Ross, Ashley Allen, Christina Robinson, and Brimone Bugs. Did I say your name right? Is Brimone here? She's not here. Okay. Did I say that right, Tim?
Yeah, she goes by Bree.
Bree it is. Other students participating in the state track meet were Ashley Nelson in shot put and Jalen Hobson. Where's Jalen? That way. In high jump. All right, guys, if you don't mind, come on up.
Nice job.
Big job, and you are? Ashley. Wonderful job. So you can take that back, and you tell Weller he's got to put that in his trophy case, okay? And I've known Jalen a long time. I'm not the least bit surprised by this. Remember, Ashley, tell Coach Weller he's got to make room for that in his trophy case. Okay, next, we'd like the Board of Education will recognize the Huntley Middle School girls and boys track teams for the following. The 8th grade girls track team placed second at sectionals. The following girls went to state. Sectional champion Jasmine Kemp for the 100 hurdles. She was sectional champion. Where's Jasmine? Long jump sectional champion. Is Emma here? Janaya Carver, 200 meter and high jump. Emma or Janaya? Janaya, yes. Okay. 8th grade 4x100 team, which includes Maria Fasciola, Janaya Carver, Rocky Mills, Maddie Hill, and Emma Rourke. Are any of them here? Okay, and then the 8th grade 4x400 team, which includes Gabby DeLaval, Jasmine Kemp, Mariah Fasciola, Emily Reese, and Maddie Hill. All right, congratulations to all of you, and you tell Coach Kiley he's got to make room for this in his trophy case, okay? Great job. Well done, very well done, all of you. Nice job. Sectional champion's a big deal. Well done.
Okay, great. Yep.
Yeah. Next, we're going to recognize Kelsey Schrader. And I'm under the impression that Kelsey was not going to be here tonight. Well, the following boys, I'm so sorry. So sorry. I did that again. Okay, the following boys from Huntley Middle School, now I'm back on track, went to state. Sectional champion Riley Marks in the 1600 and 800 meter run. Riley. Charlie Roberts in the 110 meter hurdles. Charlie here. Probably playing baseball. That's where we're going. Yeah. Marcus Bobo in the high jump. Marcus. David Hammerberg high jump. Nate Allen discus. The 7th grade 4x400 relay team, which includes David Hammerberg, Manuel Carrera, William Paquette. Did I say that right? Emery Draper and Riley Marks. Yeah. Then the 8th grade 4x200 team, which includes Matt Searles, Brian Ross, Marcus Bobo, Keontae McKinney, and David Hammerberg. And then the 8th grade 4x400 CUSD428 team, which includes Matt Searles, Lincoln Draper, Ben Allen, Keontae McKinney, and Marcus Boa. Yeah, nicely done, Mike. Nicely done. Good job, guys. That's awesome. Good job. Nicely done. Good job. Good job. Hey, tell Kylie he's got to make room, okay? That's a lot of fast kids right there. Okay, next, we're going to recognize Kelsey Schrader, and I'm back on track here. The Board of Education will recognize Kelsey Schrader for representing the DHS girls track team downstate and qualifying in both the 3,200 meter run and the 1,600 meter run. Kelsey ran both races very well and ran with the best in the state in the 3,200 meter run. And I did get a note that Kelsey was actually visiting Missouri. It's a large university this evening and couldn't make it. So congratulations to Kelsey. Next is the DHS boys track team. Board of Education will recognize the DHS boys track team for the following. The DHS boys track team came out ready to compete by winning the sectional at Huntley. As a result, the Barbs were able to send down the following sectional champions: the 4x100 meter relay team and 4x200 meter relay team. And I think, yeah, Drew's here. Drew, come on up. Drew is one of those members. The other three are out practicing football right now.
The rest of them are, except for Alicia, who qualified in the 3,200.
Stay with us, Tim. We're getting there. In addition, the following individuals qualified for state: Adam Wilson in the triple jump. Is he playing football?
No.
Is he here?
Playing soccer.
Soccer. Misha Rizoff in the 3,200 meter run, and Drew Pizzotta in the 200 meter dash. And if any of you ever saw Drew run, it was a blast. And Drew was the anchor in the 4x100, and on 2 or 3 occasions I stopped by the high school just to watch those guys. I think they posted the 5th or 6th fastest time in state on the relay team.
We were in 4th.
Yeah. And they'd have this huge lead, and they'd hand the baton to Drew, and then the lead got bigger. It was fun. So, well done, Drew. Yeah. Tim, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know it was a good group. Well done. Your name wasn't in here to recognize Tim, but we appreciate it. Thanks, Coach. All right, next. The Board of Education will recognize the DHS softball team for the following accomplishments. The softball team finished the season by defeating Huntley in the regional final and advancing all the way to the sectional championship, which, by the way, that means they're in the Sweet 16, right? So, before falling to Barrington in a close contest, 3-1?
6-4.
6-4. The postseason run was a great way to cap a successful season. So, for the DeKalb High School girls softball team, come forward. Any members?
Okay. I'm going to be, Coach Davis reached out to me today
Okay.
and let me know he and some of the girls had something come up, so I'll go ahead and take it over.
Okay,
and I can
thanks,
present
Tim.
that to you.
Thank you
So,
very much. My guess is some of them are at a traveling tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. People don't realize those girls left that field on a Saturday and then started their travel tournament season on Sunday. I mean, they just don't take a break, so. Next. Board of Education would like to recognize the girls soccer team for the following accomplishments.
Yes.
The girls soccer team finished the season by defeating Burlington Central in the regional final and advancing all the way to the sectional championship before falling to Rockford Boylan in a tough contest. The postseason run was a great way to cap a successful season. And by the way, they too were members of the Sweet 16. So well done.
No.
There was one other, two others, maybe I'll.
Yes.
Who were you? We also have a selection for the Chronicle all area soccer team, Miss Kate Hickey. And so was Patty Fry. I know with World Cup and everything going on, it's very fashionable, but I'm not really a soccer person, but I did stop by and watch them because they were so much fun a couple times and they were fun. I did that with the boys as well too, so great job on the soccer field. Next, Board of Education will recognize the boys tennis team for the following accomplishments. The boys tennis team finished on a high note with Micah Tigerstrom and Robbie Patel taking second in doubles at sectional to qualify for the state championship tournament. Although they did not medal, the seniors proved that hard work does pay off and finished their careers with a memorable state trip. Well done. Micah is here and Robbie. Robbie here. There you go, boys tennis team. Congratulations. Well done. Coach, I'm going to have you give this to Robbie if you don't mind. Thank you. Congratulations. It's awesome. And lastly, the Board of Education will recognize the DHS badminton team for the following accomplishments. The DHS badminton team competed at the Glenbard North Sectional and took second place as a team while advancing two singles competitors. Tristan Draper and Emily Rolsoma took second and fourth respectively to qualify for the state championship tournament. While they did not medal, the seniors proved that you can accomplish anything if you put your mind to it. Tristan, here you go. Congratulations, very well done. Congratulations. Tom, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Sure.
Please do.
Well, congratulations, ladies. So I think just on behalf, I'm being new here, I just wanted to thank everybody for all the support that, I've been talking with Tamara and some of the other building leaders and the other head coaches. There's been a lot of enthusiasm for the way that you finished and a lot of success from our kids. And I just want to say thank you. I know coming on board, there's been a lot of great well-wishing and a lot of open arms right now. And so, as you can see, we've got a great base of success, and we're going to try to continue to build upon that and make sure that we connect with the community and build that for DeKalb and District 428, top to bottom. So we're just all very excited to get started and running for 2014-15.
Thank you, Tom. And they are doing that, by the way, because kids start showing up at 6 in the morning?
6:50. I mean 5:50.
5:50.
5:50 yesterday morning on a Monday.
So they are off and running. So great job, thank you, and congratulations to all of them. Okay, next, it's been recommended that the Board of Education accept with gratitude the donation of $18,656.72 in grants from the DeKalb Education Foundation.
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Now, roll call, please, Vicki.
Rita Fontana?
Yes.
Vicky Hernan Faber?
Yes.
Mary Hess?
Yes.
Victoria Newport? Yes. Tracy Williams?
Yes. I don't see a card here for public comment, anything? Okay, we'll move on. Board committee reports and correspondence. Anything? Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, next, presentations. A change in internet filtering, Sean Chamberlain, Ben Vale, and Denise Fleming. Information.
We were asked by the District Technology Committee to give this presentation with our new open access policies and going to a one-to-one initiative to the district. We really need to look at making sure that our district policies line up with our board policies. Our internet filtering, the Children's Internet Protection Act has a very specific set of website categories that we must filter. And it is our proposal that those are the internet websites that we do filter. They include websites that have to do with file sharing, filter avoidance, which involves using proxy servers to circumvent our filtering system, any sites that have gore or graphic violence, mature contents which contain sexually explicit information, and any pornographic sites. Also, violent sites which advocate any physical harm to people, use of weapons, explosives, anything of that sort. This is our current board policy. Our current board policy has some specific language in it, setting, if you can see the part that is highlighted yellow, not limited to the following categories: adult content, nudity, sex, gambling. Those are all included in our big categories that we have. And anytime that we want to change the filtering settings, by having this language in it, it limits what we can, how we can change the filters because of how our board policy was set. So what our recommendation is to take that highlighted part out. It still has in there all of the things that are mandated by the government that we have in our filtering policy. It just allows us to open up some of the other filtering settings. So it is our recommendation to the board, the recommendation of the technology committee, that we open up the internet access a little bit to allow our students more access to programs that will let them communicate between each other, and to limit the roadblocks that fall in front of kids when they go to, when they go to search some. One of the things is like any kind of hate language. Well, a lot of times if the student is doing a report on World War II, if they put anything about Nazis in there, automatically blocks it. So they can't do that kind of research online. With our one-to-one initiative and trying to open up the filters to give our students more access to the material that's on there, we need to change the policy just to reflect what the suggestion is for opening it up. One kind of caveat we had to this, we met with the middle school about opening up social media sites. It is the opinion of the middle school principals that at that age, for a couple different reasons, that's not the most appropriate thing for the younger students. Let me go to the next slide. The most important part is you have to be mandatory age of 13 to register for any of those sites. So any middle school or grade school kid, at the very least, maybe at the end or sometime they may turn 13 or 14. The way that the filtering is set up, it was easy for us to block off middle school and down. They would not have access to social media. It is also the belief that we need to do some social training for the students so that they understand when it's appropriate to use that. Because that's one of the problems that they run into. We need to teach them how to use that for educational purposes. So along with this, we talked about how we're going to integrate into our PBIS system some lessons about how it's appropriate to use social media educationally to get them ready for when they're in high school And we open up the filter and allow them to use social media so they know when it's appropriate and when is it not appropriate to use it.
We want them to contribute to the whole society, and if they don't learn how to do it at an early enough age, and they just start running them off on Facebook, Twitter, and these sort of things, and not appropriately using it, it kind of defeats the point. So if we're really standing by our goal, then we really do need to open it up. And there are a lot of very important ways in which they can be utilized within the classroom as well, especially for Twitter. I mean, if you want to get into the current topics, you want to instantly, about the only way you can do that is through Twitter. Most news services, 24-hour turnaround as such. So the idea is, let's not punish the students before they've done something wrong. Let's open it up. We can always restrict it as things become an issue within the classroom. But let's open it up first and foremost and allow the students to be able to get to the content that they need to get to, rather than running into issues with the content filter. I mean, CEQA's been around for over a decade and is utilized in libraries, schools, all sorts of locations. And we're basically saying let's tailor it down to just the specific key parts that we have to actually filter, and then some additional pieces of parts for elementary level school students. But for high school students, let's open it up, allow them to be able to get to the content they need to get to, and if it is a disruption to the classroom, I guarantee you they're going to let us know, and we can tailor it back there. But as it stands right now, there's a lot of teachers and stuff who reach out to us all year long. They're like, hey, we have a student who wants to research again, World War II or how weapons changed from the Civil War to World War II and all weapons are black. A lot of kind of like a health class is like a nightmare. So we'd like to change the policy to some verbiage in order to allow us to open it up and see how it goes.
And I think that another big part of this is at the high school level, we really need to start teaching our students how to use the internet responsibly. It's like in driver's ed, you have to let them drive the car in order to teach them how to drive the car. You have to let them use the internet and teach them how to use the internet appropriately. And by just not letting them have access to it, it's not really teaching them. If you have a student they have to understand they can't be on Twitter all the time, they can't be on Facebook all the time, that's not appropriate. And we need to teach them that. And that's part of the process that we're going through in high school with our PBIS, is introducing some lessons of this is when it's appropriate, this is when it's not appropriate.
This last page wasn't in our board packet, so this is new to us. I don't know, I guess I'd like to see if you could tell us more about how, Ben mentioned, using Twitter as a real time for using that, but like, I guess I don't understand how Facebook, in education, how it would be used.
A lot of the students utilize social networking a lot differently than you may perceive. I mean, students communicate with each other much differently than you or I would. So, I mean, I've seen students trying to use Facebook in order to communicate, how they're figuring out a math problem, as well as Google Plus and many other different sorts of social media. And they all get lumped together. So whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, it's all social media. So we're basically restricting it across the board. I mean, if we find that Facebook is just an absolute disaster at the high school and it's a daily issue, then yeah, I mean, it can be trimmed down so that way we can block Facebook, allow Twitter. But as the technology committee, as we went through this, we worked with building leadership teachers as well as local business in order to figure out, hey, how should we tailor this appropriately? It was thought that, yeah, we should open this up and we should see how it goes, because there are times in which a student is more comfortable using one type of social networking platform versus another in order to communicate their thoughts or their viewpoint or things like that. So
We have one of the things that it strikes a chord when he says they use it differently, because if I were to have a video like I was to give a presentation, I would email myself a PowerPoint so I would have it. what these students do is they'll tweet themselves a Vine video that they took. It's just that they're doing the same things. They just use a completely separate set of tools that most adults don't use because that's what they're familiar with.
And my second question was, you talked about, and I completely agree, that students have to learn how to use the internet responsibly and, what the reliable sources. Do we have professional development for the staff to teach that? Because,
Well, like I said, we've been trying to dedicate a couple of our PBIS lessons, which is really our teaching social norms. This is, okay, we gave a PBIS lesson at the beginning of the year that this is the appropriate use of your cell phone in the classroom. This is an inappropriate use of your cell phone in the classroom. It's okay to look up, dictionary definitions and stuff like that. It's not okay to be, texting people in class and not paying attention. So really that's what this, I'm sure you've all had the experience where you're out someplace and you see an employee or something and they're on their phone or they're not using technology appropriately. They've got to learn that someplace. They've got to learn where it's appropriate, where it's not appropriate. And that's really, I think that is incumbent upon us to do some work there and teach them where that line is. And it's something that I think that we're really making an effort to do.
And we are including that in our professional development. June is more focused on learning and revamping some lessons, whereas August will be more working with the instructional coach and PD for internet safety. And we do internet safety right now. It is an Illinois mandate that we teach internet safety. It has been for 4 or 5 years now. So we do that at the elementary or at the middle school level with the change in schedule, and all kids not going to the computer lab anymore. We have to change that structure because that's where we've done it. So now we will do it more so with our 8th graders during their core classes now that they have that technology. So we just want, before these devices go home, we just want to make sure we equip them with the right knowledge so that they know how to act and they know what resources they have available. But we will be including that in PD for staff so that they can work with them with their students. So it's definitely in there.
Any other questions? I'd just like to say, Sean, I appreciate it as a father of junior high school students. You have some rules in your house, right, for this stuff. But I'm not savvy enough to know Snapchat from Instagram. I thought, I'm not letting them have a Facebook page. We were all over it. And so we were too naive to even keep up with it. And so I appreciate help from the school district, because I know you guys are more up to speed on this stuff than we are, and you think we're trying in our house, but we find that we're falling short sometimes. And it worked well for one junior high student and not so well for the other. So I appreciate those that know what it is can probably figure it out. But I appreciate the help and the support of this, because it's getting just bigger and bigger. And 3 years ago, our 8th grader at the time didn't even text. In just 3 years, they've gone from that to, just all these different options for communicating. As a parent, it's impossible.
We've had parents actually ask us if we could provide them with some PDs because they don't know sites and they pop up all the time. I mean, you don't know. Kick, what is Kick? I had to go on my phone and look at it. You have to have an account and you have to be 18. What is this? You don't know. They just pop up so quick. So we will be doing PD for parents if they're interested as well. There's a lot out there. And we do recognize that students under the age of 13 do have accounts. We can't control that, nor do we want to. That's a family decision, but we just want to make sure that we help our students be prepared as best.
Well, again, we appreciate it. That's very worthwhile. And I won't take any parent who not do that. Because I never heard of Kate. So, here we go. Anything else? The local or Rising Star.
Alright, hello. I am here for a few reasons tonight, and if you don't mind, I know last time I was here, I basically broken my foot. I'm starting to improve, but if you don't mind, I'd probably just still sit while I chat with you tonight, if that's okay. So we're going to start with Rising Star. Rising Star, as you know, is kind of our platform for district and school improvement, and it has been for a few years now. We just finished our 3rd year with the district level Rising Star and our 2nd year in the building. So Dr. Muller and I had talked that now would be a really appropriate time to connect with the board and let you know how is it going? You know, how are schools doing? What kind of progress have we made with Rising Star? So that's what I'm here. So we're going to start with our building level plans. There are currently 105 indicators housed in Rising Star. These are indicators basically of school success. They took research on schools who did a rapid turnaround and what did those schools do, what do you need to really improve. And it's certainly about academics and that student outcome, but it's also about building culture because we know that leads to positive student outcomes as well. So you're just going to see this is a graph to show all our schools in the district and how many indicators each team has assessed. You're going to notice a swing in indicators. The lowest amount, there's a couple of elementary schools that are about at 34, and one of our middle schools, I'm going to say was at 92, and I'm going to say was because with the change in leadership, they've changed how they are reviewing indicators in that building, and so some of those were reviewed under some prior leadership, and they're going to be going back and redoing some of those. So you've done all 92. Okay, I heard from Ms. Dawkins that there was still work to be done, so, but that's fine. So, but regardless, I go through the plans every semester, and although you can see schools doing a different amount of indicators, this is by no means an indication of which schools have done which amount of work towards growth. All of our schools have made some really great progress. And every school, as you know, has a really different way that they do business. And that's, to me, the beauty of Rising Star, is that it's prescriptive enough that we all kind of have a shared language around what we're doing, but it's flexible enough that each building can do business in a way that makes sense for improvement in your building. So this is, once again, you're going to see a difference with our fully implemented indicators. So schools get to look at an indicator of success and determine if we're fully implemented, partially, or you know what, we can't even say we're partially there yet. And with 105, it's very normal to be able to say partially or not there yet. And that's very, very typical. But you're going to see our schools, some of our schools have said, gosh, we've got a lot of fully implemented. I know for me, when I looked at it, and Christy Myers is going to speak a little bit about how Jefferson handles Rising Star. But I love seeing how many they have fully implemented because it really it connects to their student achievement data. You know, that's what's exciting, is it's not just, oh, we are giving all ourselves a pat on the back, but our student achievement data doesn't show it. You know, they've made some real gains in that building, and it's shown in both places, which is neat. So this step is showing the yellow bar is how many are fully implemented. The team, it's a team decision. So this isn't a building principal saying, yep, I did it, we're set. Which is really important because a vast majority of the starting indicators are about building leadership. So if it was just the principal's job to determine whether or not it's in place, we could see a very different way of doing it, but it's a team decision. So the orange bar says it's fully implemented. The red bar says, when we started the Rising Star process, our team felt like this was already in place in our building, fully implemented. The blue bar is kind of what I've been excited about, and that is, like at Jefferson, the blue bar is for 5. So they're saying they planned for 5 indicators in the last 2 years. And after going through that planning process and doing the dirty work of schoolwork, they now said that 5 of those are part of their 19 that are fully implemented. So that's kind of what the graph shows. You can see the blue is kind of an after we've done work, now we're ready to stay in this place.
It looks like there's only one indicator at DHS, and that's not accurate.
It is according to the Rising Star plan. You have one indicator that you're being fully implemented.
Yeah, we'll have to look at how that's being measured.
That's how it was. I know that's how it was when I left, and I don't know, but
yeah.
I looked at it last week, and that's how it was. So,
because it says that you planned for one and you've implemented one.
You had marked one fully implemented. So the way I would interpret this is there's one indicator that we went through the planning. In fact, I think I know which one it was. It's about 15 minutes of everything. And then after doing that planning, putting it on the SharePoint, all that, you were able to mark it fully implemented. So that's what that is.
There's more. We'll look at it where it's being done in the both numbers too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Because I pulled out the reports last week. So, So some kind of what types of indicators, what are we seeing are fully implemented. Leadership-related indicators, this was really exciting to me to notice that every school has at least 1 to at most 8 fully implemented across the district. So we've got really good leaders in place. Community and family engagement, certainly we can't get the work done without that. 6 schools have somewhere between at least 1 and at most 4 indicators fully implemented for family and community engagement. Assessment, we've got 5 schools have at least 1 fully implemented, at most 2. Conditions for learning, between 1 to 2, and then instruction, 1 to 7. So, and those are all the categories of indicators. What do we see across the board not fully implemented? And this is no surprise, I think, to any of us looking at this. Across the board, we don't see anything related to professional development that's fully implemented, and we don't see anything related to aligned instruction and curriculum. A couple slides from now, I'm going to tell you what our district Rising Star Plan focuses on, and you'll see the very strong connection between this slide and what our district plan, we need to focus on in the future. Okay, so that's all the numbers, which excites me because I use the data. But I also asked building principals, can you tell me some stories? Put a human side on what is good about Rising Star in your building. And so I have a few stories in here. As board members, you have these in your packet. I don't necessarily need to read them all to you. But I do want to highlight, I thought it was awesome. I sent this out. And I mean, within a day, I probably had heard from 3/4 of our buildings with really positive, and this wasn't, oh gosh, Laura's asking for this, I better stretch. But, I mean, it was really obvious that they could come with really powerful, positive stories about Rising Star. Like I said, you can read all of these in your board packet. I want to turn it over now to Christy Meyer, because she is here and she can kind of do it in person for you about what Dr. Sin has done for Rising Star.
Well, I think what Laura just said about the process, this is different than I've seen in the evolution of school improvement. We went from taking a look at our goals and writing them down and putting them in our binder and reflecting upon those, but kind of getting caught up in the day-to-day survival in the school. Okay, but the Rising Star process is just that. It is a process. They can continually look back at your goals and task them out. And what we found to be extremely helpful is to take a look at and perhaps that's, for us anyway, we were in you may know, we were in corrective action. So we have to look at those low-hanging fruit and try and figure out, well, what are we already doing that we see great results with our students? And then we looked at the indicators then that would best support that, those the efforts that we were seeing gains in. And again, it's that process, and it's tasking it out. And this is my favorite part, going back and checking it off that you did it. And as a team, finding a lot of great success when it turns over to that green side and you're like, ooh, we did what we said we would do. And not only that, we did what we said we would do, and we're seeing the great results in our student data. And for us at Jefferson, a lot of it had to do with our co-teaching model. We got the professional development where our teachers, our specialists, our resource for special ed, our ESL teachers and our classroom teachers are all working together with all of our students. So we have a complete push-in model where all the specialists and the reading specialists, are pushing into the classroom rather than pulling out groups. So we're maximizing children's instructional time. That is how we tasked out in our Rising Star, and that's how we saw student growth. So again, it was this is a terrific process to keep us on target. Yes, ma'am.
When you have a success story like that at leadership team meetings, that's shared scholarship can replicate that?
Mary, that's a great question. And this year, our principal articulation has focused just on that in particular. We took a look at stage 2 data across the district. We looked at highs. Why is this working here?
How can we then replicate that in other buildings? And yes, that's what we're having, is a good conversation.
I said it's something we've never done before. We live with it, you know, when it goes to science, not even it's not a competition, but if somebody's seeing great growth in one area,
Yes.
in one particular building, basically share out with the rest of the person, let us know how it's working for those, so you can try that. So, because eventually that's what we want to have a teacher on that. So, the principles involved in that process first, you actually look at data. It's not about I've got to university. It's hey, if you've seen these type of games, what specifically you're doing that we can try for us to do it, see that type of results.
Yeah, I do remember talking to another principal, I guess last year about this, and she was seeing that people where the teachers were opening up more, seeing this as a school-wide, school-wide effort, and they're more willing to share things because we would tend to, it really works for me, so too bad for you. But are you seeing this as well, Christy and Laura? Are you seeing this that there's more openness among the teachers? Not like within the buildings, but across the district too, to share what is working?
Yes, I do. I'm thinking to myself, no, Nina, what I'm thinking about is the platforms to do that. And I think I'm looking forward to next year when we have more articulation time, because I'll be honest with you, we've had very little time for us as a district, as a building, to have that vertical articulation that you're referring to. So yes, within our building leadership or Rising Star team, we have fantastic conversations. We do bring it back to the whole staff during our staff meeting, but staff meetings are an hour long. And you need to do some housekeeping business during that time too. So yes, there is that teamwork spirit that I definitely feel we have. We just need some time in order to have that vertical articulation that you're referring to.
In addition to that, Chris, you're also seeing the working toward, and I know time is the issue, the horizontal across the district between all second grades and all third grades.
Yes.
I know time is such a premium.
Yes, but again, I believe that is a goal of ours, and I look to Jenny for that too, but that is a goal of ours for next year with these collaboration days. That's the spirit of those collaboration days. Yeah, because it's neat. But definitely I feel that the teachers have that spirit of working together for student growth.
So then I'm just going to talk a little bit about our district plan. This year we had some pretty big accomplishments. We really started to put the focus in on Common Core. You've heard about that all year. You'll continue to hear about that. Our teams finished initial senior deconstruction and essential questions. They wrote those on the learning targets. We created a district-level professional development committee at the end of the year that Dr. Huber heads up for us. And then we really put the focus on early intervention in terms of a lot of our when I'm going to say resources, I think this year some of it was obviously building facility base with moving toward opening the East Creek Hay Center, but also just with our time of discussion. There's only so many things we can really dive deep into during leadership, during principal articulation. We put a lot of focus at our early intervention, which would be our kindergartners, really. And so moving forward in the next year, there's been a few key changes we're making in kindergarten day, and for some teachers these won't be changes at all. For some teachers they will be. But one of the things we're asking is to focus on a quiet time instead of a rest time for our kinders. And when we say focus on quiet instead of rest, we recognize that on day 3 is school, the little ones may still be falling asleep. We get that. But the goal is to bring them past that and really focus in on using that quiet time to maybe do, if they're readers on their own, to do some reading on their own, maybe a quiet conversation with the teacher, the teacher just needs to do a quick assessment with the student, whatever it is. So that's one of our changes for kindergarten day, and we took, we surveyed our kindergarten teachers and saw that extra recess time was kind of all over the place. And so one of the things, another thing we're asking for next year is obviously they'll get their lunch recess like they always have, and then they'll have another 15-minute social emotional break time, I think is what we've deemed it. And so essentially, you know, if the teacher loves doing choice activities during that time, great. If the teacher loves to do free play, awesome. If the teacher's like, I kids just need to go outside and run around. You know, whatever it is that the teacher, we've just decided to say it's going to be 15 minutes. And that is optional for teachers, but we've gone ahead and set 15 minutes for that. We know that with the Common Core, we need to actively teach that speaking and listening strand that we haven't always actively taught before. I think, especially in kinder, they've always taught it, but perhaps we just have to be a little bit more intentional coming forward. So that's part of what we see this time being used for as well. And Dr. Mueller said that MMOD kindergarten teachers about a month-ish ago, so they're well aware of that. So what's going to change for next year? You know, this will be year 4 for districts, year 3 for schools. After doing this for a while, we've come up with what we hope are a few key next steps to keep moving us forward and keep making really good progress. Our district level Rising Star meetings have traditionally been the first and third Wednesday of the month after school. That will remain the same. We are going to ask this coming year that all building level Rising Star meetings be on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, and that was actually a suggestion made by some of the principals. So the reason we're doing that is so that their capacity builders, who are their district assigned contact person, that will help that person make sure the scheduling is appropriate so they can get to each building once a month. For the last 2 years, we've had the rule that if your district capacity builder can't be there, you have to reschedule. And we, in the beginning, that was appropriate. We wanted to get things, we wanted to make sure people were following the process the way it was implemented with integrity. We feel really good about what's happening in buildings, and so we want to take a step back from saying if one person can't be there, you have to adjust 7 other people's schedules. And so we are hoping to, by saying building and district, so basically once you Rising Star Day, that's what you have to know if you are a building or at the district. The other thing I'm super excited about is that the district level Rising Star team, next year we will include 3 DCTA members as well as a community parent. So we've got a parent coming. She was a member of the Cortland Rising Star team, and she has agreed to take her child was going over to the middle school, but she had agreed to jump on the district team. So we're very excited to have her. She'll represent and meet, just a neat opinion. I think that we'll enjoy having at the table, as well as our instructional coaches will be there through DCTA as well. So, all right. Any questions about Rising Star?
What?
Yeah.
I think.
No question? Wow. Okay. You're all saving them for this presentation. Great. Okay. So here's our benchmark data review.
Well, before we get started, we're going to have Laura do the local academic screening data.
Okay. Hello.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I am going to go ahead and share just a huge celebration that's happening at Everett High School with respect to the literacy class. So, as you know, literacy is kind of our one big push for really trying to improve reading once they get to high school. And you know, data shows that's really hard to do. You know what? Why don't we focus on earlier intervention? Because that's the base thing to the book. Like that's where we're going to get it. By the time they get to 9th grade, you know, there's a lot going on for them. But we have shown this year that Explore scores, which is what we use, we give the Explore 3 times per year in literacy classes, as well as they take it in middle school as a placement measure. But as a whole, for high school literacy and academic literacy, those are our 2 higher levels of literacy, their Explore scores showed a statistically significant improvement between every single interval. So from 8th grade to the beginning of 9th grade, which means there's a good step past in middle school. From the beginning of 9th grade to October. From October, actually, 8th grade to October, October to January, January to June. So those are our 4 intervals, statistically significant every time. That is a huge, huge celebration. not only is it the first time we've seen statistically significant improvement every time for both classes, this is the first time we've seen improvement across the board for every single interval for both classes. So this is great. And the most significant increase happened in high school literacy, which is, so foundations is our lowest level of literacy. They do kind of a different, more restrictive program than what happens in high school and academic. But in that middle group, that high school literacy, from January to June, so this past 6 months or so, and I'll show you the graph on the next page. It's dynamite. Look at this. So the high school literacy. So this blue dot is 8th grade. Green is October freshman year. Yellow is January freshman year. And then look at what they do by June of their freshman year. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. So let me go back and celebrate. I mean, so then data is only important if you go, well, why did that happen? And how can we make sure that continues to happen? So really what changed, Dr. Huber asked Amy Barnes, who's one of the instructional coaches, to kind of take on a very intentional leadership role of the literacy PLT. And we found that when she stepped in and was a contact person, support, but non-evaluative support for those folks, oh my goodness. It was like they were open and wanted to talk about things, and we have a variety of new teachers teaching literacy. And it just was really, really neat. We all year, we had some data teams with literacy, felt like literacy was really improving. And we all kind of held a breath that week when I ran the data for the final time because we felt it, but it's really, really powerful to see it in print, how much they're improving. And I just chatted briefly with Amy, like, what else did you do besides just be there as a leader? And she said it really did change up some classroom instruction strategies. They used to teach them in a certain way, and now they're teaching them in a different way. And they are seeing some really neat growth. So we're going to continue to refine that next year and continue to move forward. So that's high school. All right. Okay. So now we are going to look at what will seem like a ton of graphs, and I will talk through them relatively quickly. But what we are looking at is inspired by Andrea Gorla. Last meeting I was here, so 2 meetings ago. She did some awesome financial graphs for you, and she did the stacked bar graphs, and we can look at it over time. So that's what we're doing. So these are 3 years is represented in a graph. Okay? So this is a kindergarten graph. LSF stands for letter sound fluency. Okay? So green is a national 50th percentile norm where kids need to be in a green. And then, and yellow is 25th and red is 10th percentile. Okay? So this shows the year 11, 12. 60-ish% kids were in the green in the fall, about the same in the winter, and we dropped in the spring. That doesn't mean that kids knew fewer sounds from September to May. It means that the national grew and they didn't quite grow with it. Okay? But I want you to notice when we say we see a dire need to focus on early intervention, look at where our kids came in at in 11, 12, where the kinders were coming in at. And now look at this year, where the kinders came in at. Yes, they're a different set of kids, I get that, but a remarkable change. And it's not just this data that shows it, our teachers show it every day with what we see in our kindergarten classes, just a big, big difference. So that's kinder. First grade is our CPM, so this is when we start that letter sounds. This is when they start stringing together words, okay, into sentences and actually reading the passage. So this measure we only give in winter and spring in first grade because we find that most of our first graders don't have significant enough reading ability to show any sort of valid data in the fall. So you are going to see through the next group of slides that I click through our recurring theme. And that theme is kind of a straight line. Okay? So what in a perfect world, what we would love to see is the green got bigger every 3 bars. So in a perfect world, we'd like to see the green be here and then get a little bigger, and then the next year, it's like it all happened again. but on a grander scale. And the next year, that's like the dream data world, okay? You will see that that's not what we're living currently, okay? And you know, it's hard to talk about this and to show this, but it shows this is our baseline. We have a lot, I think, that's moving forward. I just think about the vast amount of work our elementary curriculum coordinator and our secondary curriculum coordinator have already done. I mean, I think their contracts are all I want. Like, they have done so much for us already with moving us forward that I am so excited to see where we go next year. But we have room to improve, for sure. Keep in mind, I know I told you this a couple other times, we really aren't going to be able to compare apples to apples with ISAT data anymore. And then when CARP comes, we're not going to be able to compare. There's no, like, if you got this on ISAT, you should get this on CARP. So these measures I show you are about all we have for the next 2-ish years to see what we're doing longitudinally. So these are the measures, and that's part of why I wanted to show you the 3-year picture. The other reason I stopped it this year is 11-12 is when class size changed. So we hear a lot about class size. We just do. Every time we get together, we talk about student data, and it makes a lot of sense that we hear a lot about class size. We also recognize that class size isn't going to change overnight. And so when we look at what kind of growth we want to see, I wanted to pull it so that we didn't have the conversation, oh, well, that's because back here with this one class. No, what do we have going forward, okay? So you're going to see, so this is 4th grade, and I mean, there's a little nuance here and there, but for the most part, you see green at a pretty low Latin line. Now, I will say, in many cases, you see the red getting smaller as the year goes on, which is fabulous, because truly that's where we put our resources. At data teams, it's about kids who are falling locally at the 25th percentile or below. Those are the kids who get our resources. Honestly, that is so hard to stomach, and that's the only kids we can give actual resources to. That's what we got right now. So that's where we draw the line, and that's what we cut. So the exciting thing about our data is we do see that where we're pouring our resources, we're making some gains. It's the rest of the kids that we need to kind of renew the focus on. And the PE committee has had a lot of great conversations about what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we renew the focus on the rest of the class, and how are we going to actually change things so that our data doesn't look like this next year? But I have a lot of confidence that we're heading in the right direction. These are by cohort. So whereas before you were looking at it by one side kindergartners, the next side kindergartners, or whatever, these are by cohort. So I will tell you, when I ran the data, at first I was like, oh, once I run by cohort, we'll see a totally different picture. Yes, it's flat lines, but once I run by cohort, we'll see growth. I can't say that we saw a big difference when we ran it by cohort. A little bit, but not. When we get to math, you'll see a little bit of a difference, but really the most we're hoping for is that flat. Okay, so now, same thing in math. This is kindergarten. This is talking about number identification, so it is literally that. It is page numbers 1 through 9, and the kids have to identify. They're all out of order, and they have to identify what the numbers are. So same thing. This is where kindergartners came in fall 2011, and then if you look to the right, certainly they have dropped in fall 2014. Another thing you'll see that's kind of a little different in our math data than our reading data is by the end of kindergarten, we really have haves and have-nots. I mean, our yellow is minimal. We really, by the end of kindergarten, can very easily separate these kids that moved ahead in math and are where they need to be, and these kids are not. Now, in the reading data, I told you we do a really great job at shrinking our red, and that's where we put our resources, which is good. That's where we put our resources. We right now don't have math interventions. We don't have extra resources. I mean, trust me, us and teachers, I think, do their very, very best to give kids who need it extra resources in math. But we don't have the formal structure for math we do for reading, and you'll see it in our data as well. So, like this one, this is the 2nd grade, a little bit of growth from fall to winter. Otherwise, yeah, 4th grade has some significant growth this past year. We talked about that at one of the winter meetings I was here. And then 5th grade did a great job at the end of this year doing that same kind of growth that the 4th grade did. 6th grade, unfortunately, we're seeing the bars go the opposite way we'd like to see them go. 7th grade and 8th grade. And then once again, I did the same thing with math, like, hey, maybe it'll be better when I run it by cohort. We didn't always see that that was the case, but there's a little bit more to celebrate in math, I think, than in reading. But by a little bit more, we still have a lot of, I really think we're going to be able to show some huge growth in our data in the coming years, which is exciting. So yeah, what was my one about that one?
To be honest, Laura, I think we're just trying to adjust all the numbers we just saw.
I totally get it. And you can email me or, you know, we can talk at another time. It's an awful lot. I showed this same presentation at Leadership in May. And in fact, I think we had lunch right afterwards, and I think everyone had the same, like, oh, I need to stop and think about that. And then it was kind of neat. The next time we came together, it was the time for conversation. But there was, I understand what you're saying. It's a lot to kind of absorb.
Well, you know, to report back and see all the different charts and things.
Yeah.
And I'm trained by sometimes I'm
Right.
not sure what we really want to be seeing.
Yeah.
What we're seeing.
You know what?
Clearly.
That's a great question. In the future, should I put in a little bit of what I shared tonight? Like, in the perfect world, we would see this as that help you with that in the first packet?
Yes.
You got it. Moving forward, that will be in Word packet. I will use some of that and I'll like that interpretation for you in the packet. Yeah, come on.
For all staff, we've talked about before, just the acronyms. Someone's been on the board for years.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of them, but it'd be nice to have one like you just mentioned, what you would expect.
Totally. I will absolutely put that in with you guys.
But then also, what are we?
Yeah, like what is that I am? What does that mean? And, right.
Because, I mean, I know I can reach out to you, and you reach out to the staff, but
Yeah,
sometimes like
yeah.
our 7 people reaching out to you, and then
No, I'll just put it together in the packet next time. So, okay.
And then, once you explained it, I understood it, but like, what the green meant, what the yellow meant, and what the red meant.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think honestly, I'll probably write up a word that you'll see repeated. You know what I mean? So you'll kind of start seeing this thing, the same word, but I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, no problem. We're learning together here.
Lastly, though, congratulations on the high school literacy.
I know, isn't it great?
Clearly,
It's great.
you know, what we're seeing with the advances in the freshman algebra progression,
Yeah, it's
as
really
well as
great.
what we're seeing in literacy. I am anxious to see what happens to our graduation rate.
Yeah.
in 2 to 3 years.
So let me draw a quick parallel with Rising Star. I'm just like, wow, we have wonderful year from
There's more. We
So not something to worry about. It just so happens the way they're telling it, they're not going to implement it. But the reason I bring it back to this is, and I say on the Rising Star team in the high school, we're hard on ourselves in high school.
And it's ongoing. We look at these as ongoing.
Exactly. So they have one to say. That's exactly how the high school team is. But I would hate for you to see the one and go, oh gosh, things are going well in high school. Because you look at their data and things are going really, really well. So that's where I think Rising Star is one. You know, when we start thinking about like how our schools doing, how do we need to improve, student achievement outcome data is part of that, social emotional building culture is part of that, Rising Star is part of it, but no one piece tells the whole story. And I think that tonight, THS was a perfect example of that no one piece tells the whole story.
I do want to do a shout out for Amy. Amy has spent countless hours with the literacy program. They collaborate on a regular basis, and they share information, and we see that because of Amy's leadership with the literacy program. So,
Well done on that, guys. That's great. Straightforward. Like I said, I'm anxious to see our graduation rate in 2 to 3 years. All right. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Next, we're going to move on to the non-business consent agenda. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through G. As a motion. Thank you. Thank you. Vicki?
Dean Fontaine?
Yes.
Vicky Greenberg?
Abstain.
Mary Hess?
Yes.
Tony Report? Yes. Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Colin Martin?
yes.
All right, Dr. Muller?
I'd like to introduce, just improve the consent agenda, just to hire a new HR director, Mr. Jim Gorman, who's with us, and your wife. Jim comes with a wealth of experience. He's got advanced certification in public sector labor relations. He's got a master's in human resources management. He's worked in Jacksonville School District for 5 years and actually did a short stint of his superintendent told me a short stint as a elementary principal for a couple of months. So we looked for him to be able to hit the ground running July 1. So welcome, Jim.
I'm sorry, I'm still studying here, but still learning. In between the vote to move and the roll call, is there an opportunity for discussion?
There is.
Can we go back?
We
I
can.
just had a question.
We can, please, and I should have done that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
After a number of meetings, you think I'd have this down, but for some reason I can't seem to get a handle on it. I apologize.
I just had a question about item F for approval of coursework for salary advancement. I was just, I noticed one of them for Deborah Gill was for nursing. And I was just wondering what she does for the district.
She's a school nurse and it's covered under the BCTA
Okay.
contract.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
And I guess I screwed that up because we discussed so much earlier.
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
I couldn't say that.
I should have paid more attention in speech class and the Robert's rules.
Thank you.
Okay, the business consent agenda. It's been recommended that the Board of Education approve business consent agenda items A through E. Motion? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. All right, Vicki?
Vicky, you're in favor?
Yes.
Mary Hess?
Yes.
Victoria Newport?
Yes.
Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Colin Barnes?
Yes.
Nina Fontana?
Yes.
All right, next we're going to move on to business and finance. It's been recommended that the Board of Education adopt the amended fiscal year 2013-2014 budget. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, Vicki.
Mary Hess?
Yes.
Victoria Newport?
Yes.
Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Colin Barnes?
Yes.
Nina Fontana?
Yes.
Vicky, you're in favor?
Yes.
The approval of the pre-K EC playground bid results, and I got to tell you, I have no idea. It's been recommended that the Board of Education award the bid for playground equipment at Huntley Middle School for pre-K EC Center to Green Up Landscaping in Plainfield, Illinois, for the total sum of $94,645, and approve a contingency amount of 5% of the project cost in the amount of $4,732 for this project. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, and Tammy stood up.
How do we know, like, what we need to provide for kids to know that the 94,000 meets the fund or exceeds it? Or?
We spent a couple of months designing the playground with a vendor we've used most recently for Founders and Cortland. We work with him as well. He puts together somewhat of a design based on what are the popular things that children are seeming to use more regularly, and the age of so they're also age appropriate within our budget constraints. And then we bring that information back. We met with Lisa Gorschels, Jessica Stewart, and Katie Davis from the pre-KDC and went over recommendations. We eliminated many things for various reasons, from cost and what things that they didn't feel either were appropriate for the children, their children in pre-KDC, and then came up with a design that was actually exactly part of the bid specs. So the bids were exactly what we designed into a layout based on the space that we have as well as budget and then the children's age.
Where's it going exactly?
It's actually going just north of the tennis courts and just west of the iCloud or the cloud generator.
Any other questions? All right, Vicki?
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Tracy Williams,
Yes.
Colin Barnes,
Yes.
Rena Fontana,
Yes.
Vicki Hearn in favor,
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes.
Okay, next we have an information item from Tammy. It's the facility rental program update.
As you know, I've probably been in front of the board about once a year since we made changes to the program about 5 years ago. We started implementing more fees, getting them a little more strict on the different programs that can be using our facilities, and then going through proper tracking and documentation when groups want to use our buildings. In 2011, when we moved into the new high school, we knew that usage was going to increase dramatically. Not only do we have this beautiful high school, but now it actually gives us another school that can be used that is the size of a high school, middle school, and that's what the groups are looking to rent. The decision back in 2011 that I'm looking to make a change to and would like to just give you some information what we're looking at is with the youth clubs, and that's sports clubs as well as fine arts clubs as well as could be science clubs. It's just the clubs that are out there. We have never charged any type of facility fee. There's 3 categories of fees. There's facility fees, which is rental of the space, a rent fee for the space. There's staffing fees when we are incurring additional costs because our staff has to work additional hours because of the group, whether it's to cover the event or cleanup. And then there can be also security, which is part of the staffing, kitchen staff. And then there can be equipment rental if they use our equipment fees for that. With these youth clubs, we haven't charged a facility fee. That's been waived. And there's a lot of reasons behind it. Back when we talked about this in 2009 and then again in 2011, the consensus at that point was these are our future athletes. A lot of them are using these clubs, but they are the athletes that are going to be part of our high school sports programs, our middle school sports programs. So charging for practice space and game space, we weren't charging those fees. We were strictly charging if we were incurring additional costs because of staffing costs, say an after-hours event or a weekend event. So they were reimbursing us for that. Now that we've been in the high school for a few years, we have realized that there are some pretty large clubs that are using our facilities for very large events. And what that is doing is it is taking a toll on our grounds, on our equipment, and at some point is going to be part of the cause for us to need to replace or repair. What I am recommending with input from Jessica Davis, who is our facility rental coordinator, is that for these clubs, we don't charge them for facility rental when it comes to their practices. Those spaces will still be available for practice at no facility rental cost. But if they are holding an event that they are charging a team registration fee or they are charging admission costs to the attendees, that the district does collect a facility rental fee or a portion of their gate or team registration fee. That will then be, and this all still needs to get all the details worked out, but put into a separate type of an account or something so that that can be tapped into to utilize for these repairs and replacement in the future. Again, it doesn't affect practices, which is a large portion of what these groups use us for. But it does affect games, tournaments, those type of things where they are collecting fees from outside groups or from attendees, and that some of that cost will be then paid back to the district for the use of our facility for those large events. That's one part of it. So if there's any questions on that, I'd like to.
Just one, and that is this also includes the music and theater, and not just.
It's not just athletics. It's fine arts. It can be, like I said, science clubs, academic type clubs. They're using some of the spaces they're using can be quite extensive and for quite long periods of time, and upwards some of the groups of 2,000 people attending. You know, when you're putting 2,000 people through our schools and it's not a school-sponsored event, you know, we've decided, you know, again, and with our budget constraints, you know, it is time to take a step back. We're having our air conditioning on a normal occupancy level during those times. We have our electricity going.
many things that we wouldn't do if that group was not there, and we're incurring costs, and that's not being passed along to these groups.
Any other questions? Please.
I just wanted to add that, ever since we opened the high school, one of my biggest concerns has always been the fact that when we do collect these rental fees, they go into the general fund, not the O&M. But eventually, if we're using the auditorium, those seats are going to need to be reupholstered somewhere. Where's that funding coming from? So I like the idea of what you're saying about there's going to be a specific fund set aside where we can sort of have some revenue in reserve when those repairs are needed.
And that's something, Andrea and I still need to sit down and talk through the details of how that can occur properly, but those are some of the ideas that we've been hashing out to try to figure out how to have that in a separate fund if that's a possibility.
The facility use fee, is that going to differentiate based on whether it's a for-profit or a non-profit?
It will not. It's going to be a fixed fee. And I do want to point out with the fixed fee, there is a daily cap to it. So, for example, some of our clubs arrive at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they don't leave until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's over a 12-hour day. There is a daily fee cap, so even though if you took an hourly rate, could be $1,000 for them to use that room, there could be a daily cap on that particular room of $500. So those will be fixed, regardless of the types of groups using them. Keeping in mind, if we still have our different categories, so for our, let's just say like our Girl Scouts, I don't know how they charge an entry fee, but they don't pay a facility fee. And rarely do they ever even get a staffing fee because they don't use our facilities after a custodian is there or on the weekends. They use it after school for an hour and a half. We wait to clean the room until they're gone, and there's really no additional cost incurred to the district. So, but for these large, I shouldn't even say large, for these clubs that are collecting revenue because of the events they're holding, that's where the district is looking to charge fees.
To understand the impact, do you have a list that you can provide us of the clubs that we're running so we understand who we're going to be making an impact on?
I do. I can definitely forward that out to you. I just received the final one right before I arrived tonight, an update from the year. So we know who has used our facilities pretty regularly, and we'll be moving forward with sending them correspondence to let them know that this is changing for the 14-15 school year. So, and with any application, we provide them with an estimated invoice before they ever have their event, so they know the potential cost of using our facilities, and this will be included and not waived in a situation like this.
Are our people renting our facilities, are they Malta, Cortland, DeKalb, or do they come from, and I was in Clifton Rosette one time, and there was the Sycamore softball team in the gym practicing.
The majority of these groups, I would say around 95% are DeKalb Malta Cortland groups. Now, some of the clubs, they pull kids from other communities because there are not clubs within their communities like out of Waterbury and Shabana. And there is some crossover between DeKalb and Sycamore. And we did venture down that road of saying, okay, if X% of your club members are from DeKalb or DeKalb students, well, then your fee is waived. Well, I think it's really difficult to monitor, as well as, where is that line? Is it 50%? Is it 75%? And so we've kind of gotten away from that and just, it's all or nothing.
Any other questions?
The only other thing I wanted to make the board aware of is one thing that has been brought to my attention and asked is that regarding the turf field. And there is a substantial cost in replacing the turf field and the repairs that are required with turf field. And the question has come up of, do we really want to have outside groups, whether it's our youth sports clubs or not, using our turf field, or do we want to restrict access strictly to district groups? And so I guess kind of that's up for discussion, but my recommendation would be that we have 5 other fields, athletic fields out at the high school that could be used should they want to, as well as 3 middle school sized schools where we count founders that have space that could be used.
Any comments?
I just want to know who, yeah. What are the clubs that are using it? If it's 2, then it's not a big deal, but if it's 20.
It's a very limited amount that are using it. I don't know if you want to go into names at this point, but like, for example, the DYFL football team uses it. We had, and then they host a tournament. It's sponsored by another organization called Midwest something Gridiron, and but it's pretty much runs through the DYFL club. They run it, but there's a company that runs it. They are primarily the ones, but we also had the American Cancer Society Relay for Life on the turf field when they've done their relays every other year in June. Those are primarily, there was an outside group which will not be back. It was not from our community that paid full rate to use it. We won't allow them back on our field for a variety of reasons.
This is our 3rd year on the turf. What wear and tear have you seen on it so far? As expected, or more, or less?
I would say we're pretty much on track of what I would expect, but there are things we need to address, even with our own district. For example, how the PE classes use them. You don't want to, Tracy and I talked about this, we don't want them playing kickball or softball or whatever they play out there in one corner every single day in the same corner of the field, so you have that same wear and path going on. You want them moving around that field, those type of things. So I don't think we have had excessive wear, but the more popular and well-known our turf field becomes, the more interested we have people that are coming in and are willing to pay. Well, that's great, if we collect $1,000 that they're there that day, but if it costs us a $2,000 repair, because they don't care about our facilities, they're not district people, why would we do that?
Well, I think to talk to Jeff and the guys out there, I mean, they're constantly searching the seams, even under normal wear and tear. And
the fill we have to put into that regularly, the cost of the fill.
Yes, and they do a fabulous job, but it's harder to maintain that than it is to go and mow some grass. And these guys are getting good at it, I think. And, if you walk on Northern's field, our field's softer and nicer than theirs. So these guys are doing a great job, and the softer will prevent injuries. But even under the normal wear and tear, these guys have a fairly constant battle with keeping seams tight. And it's no different than a carpet seam in your house. Once it starts, they can go across the room in no time. And so they're trying to stay ahead of it. But it's only 3 years old, and we're supposed to get at least 10 out of it. But if we don't stay on it, and I'm the one. Every day I drive down the road and I see the first hour PE class in the same corner playing softball every morning, because it's the one you walk out the door and there's the course, and it's like, you can see it, you can see what that does day in and day out. So we're just going to have to get better at managing that turf, especially since GSA doesn't look like it's coming back anytime soon, so we need to make that last. Thank you, Tammy. Any other comments? Thank you very much. All right, new business. It's been recommended that the Board of Education approve a pilot with Mastery Manager in the amount of $9,994 through January 31st of 2015. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Anyone? No. Roll call, please.
Colin Lawrence,
Yes.
Nina Fontana,
Yes.
Vicki Favor,
Yes.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Tracy Williams.
Yes. I just want to say, Laura, nice job on finding a compromise.
Well, and I want to thank Dr. Loftus, because she's the one who brought it to Dr. Huber and said, hey, what about this? And it was an excellent idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, recommended revisions to the Board of Education policies, second reading and approval. It's been recommended that the Board of Education hold a second reading and approve recommended revisions from the Illinois Association of School Boards to Board of Education policies as attached. Motion? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any thoughts, discussion? These are usually hot topics. Yeah. Seemed like the fifth reading. Vicki, go ahead.
Nina Fontana?
Yes.
Vicki Hunter Favor?
Yes.
Mary Hess?
Yes.
Victoria Newport?
Yes.
Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Colin Barnes?
Yes.
All right, well, that concludes everything on the agenda. Anyone have any last comments? If not,
Congratulations to Dr. Morrison.
Much different view up here.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.